Ahoy me mateys, it's me, Tyler, coming at ya with yet another video about E3. See, last year I discussed how I felt this biggest event of gaming was on unstable footing, slowly becoming an archaic relic of gaming history. And since then, it died. A lot of credit has to go to Kyogre and its destruction of modern society. But this video isn't just about E3 and how it died and why it's dead and why watching it makes you feel like you're dead, because I already did that video. But there's a lot more to this story. Marketing has to change in this brave new world, so that's the video. But it'll be fun, I promise. So a few months after E3 2019, the organization that manages the event, the ESA, suffered a massive leak that doxed journalists and attendees. Tons of personal info and shit was released, and people weren't too happy about that. Remember, this organization was already getting flack for high event costs, and companies were dropping out of E3, and it just felt like all of the involved parties now had a bone to pick with the ESA. But this was just the beginning of the end. The event itself was still intact. Until it wasn't. In an attempt to modernize E3, it was decided to take the expo in a new direction. One that was less focused on games and more on influencers and celebrities. You know, the cringe-loaded goat-shitting absolute worst parts of the show. Now this was a bit of a miscalculation. More and more onlookers just grabbed the popcorn because it seemed as though this E3 would be more entertaining for the shit show rather than the actual announcements.
When are they gonna get to the fireworks factory?
This spiritual death of E3 was only solidified when Jeff Keighley, a notable man and video game guy, said he wouldn't be returning for the event. This was in connection with this whole new direction because, I mean...
Video games, they've been, where are my jokes?
But then Kyogre woke up and attacked the cities, and people hid in their homes. Events of all type and ethnicities were decidedly cancelled. Alas, the worst E3 of all time would never come to fruition, but maybe E3 will come back next year. Who cares? But this void of announcements, the drought of marketing, it could not last, and not this year. Not with 2 consoles and big old games to be hyped up. And with this, that Jeff Keighley guy took charge. The Summer Games Fest, announced and organized by, you guessed it, my name is Jeff Keighley. A man who turned the VGAs, an award show once held in your grandma's basement, into a fucking monolith that the Oscars would envy. If anybody could save E3, or the spirit of E3, it was him. It wasn't really an event, more so a loosely tied series of announcements and conferences that would span the summer months. This would allow each show to get its chance in the spotlight, and live event halls were not necessary. Otherwise possibly underwhelming showcases have garnered massive hype. PlayStation really didn't show off all that much.
Or put ray trace reflections on Clank.
They didn't really have a great show, but people, they still talked about it. It is a good direction, but it is missing one benefit of E3. The benefit of it being one giant event. People are more likely to tune into every conference, even the ones they don't care about, because it's on TV. You just put it on while you go get food. Without this crutch, the lowest of the low publishers can't bring in audiences. Another lost benefit would be the perceived competition element of E3. Who won? Who won E3, guys? Was it them? No, they won. My team won. Now, personally, I never was too fond of this mentality because it only led to conferences having huge promises that were never fulfilled, or products revealed that wouldn't be released for a long-ass time. Smoke and mirrors to distract from the short term. There's less incentive for this now. Console manufacturers might still show products years away, but that's only because they gotta sell you on this big ol' thing. Now, speaking of consoles, 2020 marks the start of the new generation. You got the PlayStation and the blah. Think about how neither company has listed a price for these boxes. This is intentional because both companies want to see what the other one does first. Consoles can take a loss and make it up through digital services and games.
At $499 in the US.
$399.
So yeah, the Summer Games Fest seems to be a decent idea. The biggest fault of all this being the over-reliance of hype still. Each major event still has loads of anticipation, expectations from fans that cannot be met. The marketing team overpromises, the showcase doesn't deliver, and people just get angry. These events end up hurting a brand more than if they never happened at all. And that's why I was admittedly surprised when Nintendo decided to try a new direction. I mean, not that surprised, because after all, they were the ones to start the Nintendo Direct format, but I was still surprised. See, what they did is they announced a big game a few months before launch, but they just announced it. Just on Twitter and YouTube, there's no announcement for a day when you'd get the announcement. There's no build-up hype. It's just there. And so the response you saw afterwards was positivity. People were just happy. This is what happens when you don't build up an event and under-deliver. And think about it. If somebody tells you you're gonna get a present tomorrow, you expect a lot. Is it gonna be a puppy? Did they get me a puppy? And then when you finally get the gift and it's not a puppy, you're left disappointed. You might even be a little bit angry because you feel like you lost something. But if that same person, without warning, just came up to you and gave you like a fancy new toaster, you're gonna be happy because you didn't expect the puppy. So is this possibly the next step of these sort of announcements? No warning, just shadow drops? I mean, I hope so. It's what a lot of industries do. Wonder Bread won't announce a big live stream to reveal the new bread. They'll just say like, hey, here's some bread. Sure, events that combine the big AAA games and the indie releases gives more exposure to otherwise niche titles, but it also comes at the potential cost of letting fans down. But outside gaming, because there is more to life than gaming, how do other expos and events manage this? Sure, right now with Kyogre flying around, everything's gone, but most of these events will come back because most things are not like E3. Like, look at this. You got this big-ass construction and machinery show, this expo that caters to people in a very specific field. The people will meet up, they'll see the big old tractor. As for the future of games, Summer Games Fest it's fine. It's a few events spaced out of the summer, and it means I no longer have to face the disappointment of another bad E3. Each event has lower expectations than one grandiose day of orgasmic joy, but honestly, the shadow drop of big announcements, that just seems like the next big step. I understand that events exist to bolster the sense of community and brand recognition, but is it really worth that negative press if you fail to deliver? I mean, I don't know. I'm just Tyler, but I have a feeling over the next few years, we're gonna find out.